we have someone who has traveled very far. Now, I know when we say very far, back in the day, when you say very far, it meant, couple hundred, couple thousands kilometers. But now 1,000 kilometers can be traveled in a couple of hours. So, nonetheless, he still traveled from very far across the pond. A very, very famous and well-renowned poet and a server of Ahl al-Bayt. He's a British poet and spoken word artist and filmmaker. His writings mostly focus on the Ahl al-Bayt, whilst also touching on topics that affect the Muslim world and writing against extremism. Through books, albums, videos, and couplets on various social media outlets, his poetry is read and heard avidly by readers worldwide. Please help me in welcoming, all the way from UK, London, Brother Nouri Sardar.
I decided to climb a mountain named Ali and attempt to reach that peak of eloquence. I decided to climb a mountain named Ali and attempt to reach that peak of eloquence. For what can be sweeter than the peak of Ali? Even at his base, the sweetest remembrance. A mountain rooted in the earth of Islam, a sign of God and a beacon of guidance. I knew that his peak was one full of life's lessons, whereas most peaks have nothing but air's absence. For this is Ali, he who Everest envies. His climb challenges earth's to heaven's distance. So I climbed, but unlike climbing a mountain, the further I climbed, the sweeter the fragrance. I climbed like I was flicking through the pages of a book named Nahj al-Balagha, the crown of this prince. I climbed and I heard him say that certainly we are the masters of speaking, and I was left in grievance. For I realized what Everest refused to know. As climbers upon its peak, every day dance, I can never reach his peak, for Ali has no peak. I can never reach his peak, for Ali has no peak. He rescaled the scale of what a peak is, and if he could, and he could, he'd leave earth in imbalance. So I accepted that this peak I simply cannot conquer. And at the foot of Ali, I paid my allegiance, and I bathed in the lessons that his words teach us, the courage, the submission, the patience, the science. And I salute this peak, wherever it may be. All that I know is that it is above brilliance. All that I know is that it is above brilliance. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. People of Vancouver. Wonderful to meet you. I'd like to thank the organizers for giving me the great opportunity of being able to stand here and just share a few verses of love about Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. I want to use these next few minutes that I have, inshallah, with your permission, just to kind of rediscover our allegiance to Ali ibn Abi Talib and re-examine what it means to pay allegiance to Ali ibn Abi Talib. All over the world right now, including this wonderful event right here, Shias are gathering and remembering that wonderful day of Ghadeer when the Holy Prophet raised the hand of Ali ibn Abi Talib and commanded the Muslims to pay allegiance to him. But I want to examine what it really means to pay allegiance to him. And I'm going to examine this through three segments. For the first one, I want to begin in a place that is quite solemn. Forgive me, I know this is obviously a day of Eid, a day of celebration, and we will be celebrating the Walā of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam with myself and with the wonderful reciters. But the day of Ghadeer was the beginning, unfortunately, of a set of dominoes that led to the day of Ashura. And while I won't delve into specifically what happened on the day of Ashura, I want to talk about our commemoration of Ashura and what it means to lament Imam Hussein alayhi salam. MashaAllah, all of you guys are youth, and I've seen some fantastic work from you guys in this wonderful community. And I'm sure many of you are getting ready to prepare for the 10 days of Muharram and for commemorating Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But I just want to re-examine what it means to commemorate him, because that in itself is perhaps one of the biggest strands of Walaya of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And if that is something that we get wrong, then it jeopardizes our allegiance to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Because I feel like we've lost our way. I feel like we've lost our way. Though I understand that these tears we shed for Imam Hussein will be weighed on the day of judgment like gold, and everything we did in his way will be like the most beautiful good deeds, and my heart bleeds. Hussein, and he's all that I need. He's the thirst of my spirituality and the flame that my heart feeds on. And whenever I'm in need, I get down on my knees and I plead with the words, Ya Hussein, proudly on my tongue. And I know that he heeds, and I know the roads he walks on, because I know where he leads to heaven, where he leads as the master of the youth of paradise, where his father holds the keys. And the only way I'll get there is if he intercedes for the wretched person that is me. But there's more to just a tear. A tear needs to mean something. Crocodiles cry, but when it comes to mealtime, it doesn't mean nothing. This tear is worth so much that it's measured by a fly's wing. But if we don't pray, we don't receive intercession, i.e., it doesn't mean anything. If we spend 10 days making a majlis but can't spend 10 minutes praying, then there's clearly something wrong with that love that we claim to have. That's really worth investigating. If we use the hands that we use to lament Hussein to beat our kids or beat women, then how ignorant are we of Hussein's uprising? The same hands Abbas lost when sacrificing all that he had for those women and children who from thirst were dying. If we oppress others, no matter how small that oppression seems to be it mocking or bullying, harassing or belittling, then whose side are we sitting on? Hussein's or Yazid's? If we give our money to the majlis, but we earn that same money through cheating and stealing, or we stand up when our own rights are taken away, but don't stand up for others who are bleeding, or we see oppression and we hesitate because we think about all that it might take from us and our comfortable living, then we aren't taking on lessons from the same story that we keep hearing. If we can't ignite the Hussein within us, then which Hussein are we lamenting? If we can't defeat the Yazid within us, then which Yazid are we condemning? If we can't implement Hussein in our life, then which Hussein are we remembering? So to commemorate Hussein and to say that you love Hussein while you don't follow Hussein is a red herring. To say you love Hussein while you don't follow Hussein is a red herring, because in the book of Ashura, his enemies can be red hearing that the reason he rose up was for the verse read that his grandfather read, hearing revelation in his ear. And yet we have the indignity to live in humiliation and not in dignity. And I speak for myself. If I want to be beside Hussein, then I need to let go of everything in my life besides Hussein. Everything that doesn't realize Hussein. Everything that fails to live by Hussein. And by extension, that means God, because Hussein did everything he did because of God, who himself wants nothing more than us to be like Hussein. Ask any one of us who inspires us most, and we'll be like Hussein. Sad though, that so few of us actually want to be like Hussein. So to commemorate Hussein, stand up for someone suffering, be it from racism, domestic violence or bullying, be it against an apartheid who partides in lobbying, be it for a black man shot dead for his skin coloring, be it for a depressed soul whose smile is shivering, be it for an orphan's dreams crushed by his own starving, or a refugee seeking refuge in yearning for a living, or a native's land weeping from oil profiteering. Commemorate Hussein by acting like Hussein. And if you agree with me, Sami aloud, Salawat al Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Singing in the crowd earlier today, I was really amazed and fascinated by the amount of cultures and ethnicities that are represented right here in this hall. Muhammad Samak got up on this podium and, praised the Iraqis and ripped the Iraqis. He praised the Afghanis and ripped the Afghanis. He praised the Lebanese and ripped the Lebanese. he ripped the Pakistanis, and I feel a bit offended because I'm the only Pakistani here, I believe. So just to let you know, Muhammad Samak, wherever you are, watch out, bro. I'm coming for you. All right? We're South Asian. Our blood is pretty hot. Let's be very careful of us. I want to focus on the Iraqis particularly because, obviously, the land of Iraq itself is something almost from a tale of heartbreak, just decades and decades of oppression. Of course, every country goes through its own forms of oppression and poverty, but Iraq is very special in that, you find that the resilience of the people is something almost, it is admirable despite all that they've gone through. And I want to focus on one aspect of that, which is poverty and the orphans, which leads me to the second strand of re-examining our walayat to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And that is one of his finest attributes, which is the father of orphans. None of us can claim to love Ali or follow Ali unless we take care of the orphans, unless we feed the orphans, unless we love the orphans. I remember when I was in Karbala, I think it was last Muharram, obviously I was blessed with the opportunity to do the ziyarah, but I was also blessed with the opportunity to visit some houses of families who were living in utter poverty, and many of them were living in this poverty because the fathers, the breadwinners of the family, had gone out and sacrificed from what they had to defeat terrorism in the region. And as a result, as you know, in Iraq, when the husband dies or the father dies, because of the way the country is, the family just collapses on itself, so they live in utter poverty. And it's very sad that these are the same fathers, the same men that are going out there and not defending Iraq from terrorism, but defending the world from terrorism. And the only thing that they have to show for it is a family who are living in utter poverty. I want you to reimagine, or kind of imagine what you can from one of my visits that I had to one of these houses. It begins with you walking in a beautiful countryside, that is the countryside of Karbala. And you enter a region, like an area that's almost like a wasteland. There's rubble all around, wires everywhere. It's no place for a human being to live, let alone an animal. But within this rubble, you see a house. And in this house, there is a family, a broken family, of course. A mother, 3 or 4 kids. And one of these kids is a young girl, about 4 or 5 years old. And I want all the fathers particularly, and the mothers, and everyone here, to just imagine this young girl of 4 or 5 who has a whole life ahead of her, but has that whole future threatened because of that poverty. You turn to her and you ask her, you tell her, what was it that happened to your family? Why are you living in such poverty? What's the story? She turns to you and she says, Dad never came home and I wasn't sure why. I was confused. My eyes still warm from the kiss he left me just the other night. I can't sleep tonight though because I hear Mummy cry. He had a job to do, she'd tell me. I kind of understood, but I didn't really understand why. I knew that he had to travel far away to protect us from some bad guys, and now my insides hurt because he said he's coming back and I can't believe he lied. My eyelids are lied to the tears I've cried. Daddy, are you coming back? Because they're telling me that you died. Baba has to go, he'd tell me. There are some bad people that want to do us harm. He'd hold me real tight, his arms clenching, stroking my palms. I refuse to live in humiliation, he would say. So we've taken to arms. They're hijacking our religion and they're pretending to know our prophet. There's nothing prophetic about their evil, and I will not stand for it. No one else is going to stand up and defend the world against them. The world's against us again, and we're stood firm against them. He kissed me goodbye, right there on the neck. He left a piece of himself there, just a tiny little speck. The spectacles, his spectacles almost hanging off his nose. A spectacle awaits him, and it's almost as if he knows. I remember those trips to Erbil. He'd never buy me anything cheap. Wherever I wanted to go, he'd take me. He'd always bring me back gifts to keep. He'd tuck me into bed every night before I sleep. His hands would dry my tears if ever I would weep. Whenever I loved something or wanted something, I'd come back home and find it waiting for me in my bedroom. The exception was my dad. I kept loving him, but I never found him there. It was a few days later, I heard Mum crying. The sun sat differently in the sky that day. Instead of burning strongly amongst the clouds, it lay. My father, whose soul is but a peace of mind, didn't return from the front line this time, and it's not giving me peace of mind, and I've never known Daddy to not be on time, and there's a fine line between knowing something's wrong and everything being fine. I knew something was wrong. It could be nothing, but I'm tormented by my mind. Is it shaitan, or is it logic that's telling me it's all a sign that Daddy isn't coming back home this time? My mother came into our room, not holding back the tears. She couldn't hold it in any longer. Her heart as disheveled as she appears. The way her voice was trembling, I hope the angel of death can hear. I can't describe the fear that grappled my little heart. Ya Allah, the fear. She scared me the way she wept. I was just as scared of what she would say. Just as scarred as I was then is how I am scarred today. My love, she said, he is no longer with us. He's no longer with us, and I'm sorry it has to be this way. Your father isn't coming back this time, my love. He's been taken away. Mum, what do you mean? I answered. Did Daesh capture him today? It's okay, Mum. He'll be safe. We just need to kneel down and pray. No, you don't understand, my love. Your father isn't coming back. He left the battle, but his friend was left behind, and he wanted to have his brothers back, so he headed back and he turned back on everything he had, and he never came back. They found his body. Your father's dead, my love. Your father's dead, and he isn't coming back. It took me a long time to accept it. I expected everything except it. I expected the world to topple on its head, but not from my dad to not be home or never come home whenever I come home for the rest of my life. Be strong, my mom says when she wipes away all those tears. It's time for us to band together. Life won't be easy from here. From here on, no dove nor heron will fly above our house, a house like a head without hair on. We'll be without food because we have no breadwinner. That's just the way this country is. That's just the way this country is. A widow is a bread loser. We'll have to move out into a hut because we can't afford this rent. But love it like your home, my love. Love it like your home. Alhamdulillah, it's better than a tent or better than no place at all. Just like tea and a bit of bread is better than no food at all. Like walking an hour to school is better than no school at all. Like water that isn't clean is better than no water at all. Or like having no father now is better than never having had a father in your life at all. If I could do anything in this world, it would be to turn back the time of the earth and hope that time would reverse and my father would be here, and I tell him not to go. He died for something great. I know that doesn't change the fact, though, that my tears like rivers flow. So hold your dad close and don't ever upset him. Kiss those hands that build day and night just so you can sleep comfortably in peace with no worries or fears that he'll ever let you go, because the time you spend with your dad, you'll never get it back once he leaves this world. Some dads die of old age. Some dads die when we're young. And some dads are taken from us, leaving our households broken and struggling. So take care of us orphans, because my dad, he died for something great. My dad, he was something great. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi. Let's have a second loud salawat, please. And a third, as the loudest of your voices. So I hope that we have somewhat rediscovered our own allegiances to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And of course, I can't speak for anyone in this room. I can only speak for myself. But I feel it's very important to reassess what it means to be a follower of Ali. Unfortunately, the reality of the world and the reality of many of our communities today in the religious world is that we live in a very dogmatic society, which means that we believe firm-handedly that we are the only people that are going to heaven, everyone else is misguided, and that's not the way the world is at all. We live in a society of multiple religions, multiple cultures, and we need to appreciate that. And the one advice I want to leave you with before I begin my last poem is that, alhamdulillah, we've been blessed with the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib, but never, ever, ever think that it means you're the rightly guided and everyone else is false. Have that faith, but always reassess that faith. Always reassess your wilayah to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. The last poem I want to read was a poem I wrote a few years ago about the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Of course, today we are here to celebrate that wilayah. And alhamdulillah, Allah has given us that wilayah. And it's unfortunate that we have groups in the world, I'll say it very clearly, these Wahhabi terrorist groups, that hate us so much and hate that love that we have for Ali ibn Abi Talib, that they go out of their way to dismiss us and our lives and our religion and our cultures, call us not Muslims, not even human in many cases. And I want to stand here and speak directly to someone who follows that kind of ideology and tell him straight up. When they ask me about the difference between hellfire and heaven, I tell them that it's between the left and right hands of Abul Hassan. They ask me about the difference between hellfire and heaven, I tell them it's between the left and right hands of Abul Hassan. They ask me about my Islam as if I don't believe, and they ask me in a way as if I'm anything but human. They ask me in a way where they demean my existence and expect that I'll stutter and answer with caution. They ask me in a way that they know all the answers. I answer in a way that's more certain than they're certain. I answer them when they ask me why I overpraise him, because he was born in the magnet of your prostration. They tell me that my love for him is strictly forbidden. I tell them that forgetting his love is an innovation. They tell me that we make him to be something that he's not. I tell them if he's not great, why isn't he forgotten? They call me a disbeliever and a polytheist. I say, call me what you want. My faith is never shaken. They tell me that my love for him left faith in division. I tell them that without this love, there would be no religion. I answer when they tell me that my love for him has made me mad. Then how is it that I use logic to reach this conclusion? They ask me, how is it that you believe such insanity? I say, I never kept quiet when I had a question. They tell me, how can you say that he was meant to be the first? I say, after 3, he was begged for that position. They say, how can you choose him over those Muhammad loved? I say, when others ran, he gave Muhammad protection. They say, how can you choose him as first when they chose a first? I say, the Lord chose my decision, not an election. They say, Khaybar was all he did. Don't pretend that he done more. I say, the gate to Muhammad's city he would open. They say, how can you say that he has a say in miracles? I say, only Ali can affect the sun's rotation. They say, how can you say that Ali is like the moon? I say, Muhammad's the sun and Ali is his reflection. They tell me I'm wrong and I'm destined for hellfire. I tell them I have Ali. My faith is never shaken. They tell me that I lie. I tell them nothing have I hidden. When you look into my eyes, you see that Ya Ali is written. When you look into my eyes, you see that Ya Ali is written. You see the letters of his name in my pupil glisten. You see I've given him my soul, my house, and my children. You see I've given him all that you have never given. And even if I'm wrong, I'll still wait for his intercession. They ask me about the difference between hellfire and heaven. I tell them between the left and right hands of Abul Hassan. I tell them between the left and right hands of Abul Hassan. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Please remember this in your du'as. Thank you, Vancouver. You've been great. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.